Hey everybody, welcome to World History. This is our very first lecture of the year, so this is going to look a little bit different than all the other videos that are going to follow after this, because I'm going to start off by going over how to take notes in my class. So if you happen to have this in front of you on your computer or you're doing this on paper, go ahead and grab that. So this is what our fill-in-the-blank notes document will look like basically in any chapter we're doing, and it is here that you will take all of your notes for the entire unit. It's not just section by section. This is the entire unit. You will be using this the whole time. So, well, let's explore this just a second. So you see these bold headings? That means that those are your lectures for each day. So whenever we start a new section, it'll be in a bold heading. As you can see, there's a number of blanks. The blanks correspond to the slides that I will be going over. So let's look at this first slide here. See, we have this first blank here. If it is on the uppermost bullet, meaning the very first one, that means I am looking for the title of the slide. So in that case, here you would type in prehistory and then go from there, filling out the blanks and the information. Now, when you're in class and we're doing notes, I will give you time to write out the blanks before I start talking about it. On the videos, I'm just going to simply just dive right in and start talking about it just as you're not here. This is just me talking to my computer screen and you watching this later. These videos will be uploaded on a regular basis, either on our Google Classroom site or onto a YouTube channel. Either way, they will be available to you via Google Classroom, whether that is the actual video itself being posted on there or a link to the YouTube video. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with our notes. So today we're talking about in the beginning. We're really just getting started today. We're not going to dive too deep into history. We're just mainly getting enough to get our feet wet and get truly started today. So again, just follow along. Go ahead and get your notes out. Whether or not you are doing those on paper or on digital, that is up to you. So without further ado, let's get started. So we're doing two sections of notes today. So in the beginning, we're going to talk about prehistory. And yes, there is such a thing as before history, even though we are in a class where we are talking about the past. We are also have to talk about the time before people wrote down what had happened. This is mainly associated as a time before humans knew how to write. Now, from this, we get the idea of a historian. Now, these are scholars who study and write about the historical past. They can talk about anything in terms of history. They study things such as artifacts, like objects made by humans, clothing, coins, art. This image here is a really good example of some various art pieces that you could look at as a historian. The more modern in history you get, you also have a lot more writings you can look at, photos, which we'll have a chance to look at, film, and more often than not, historians don't always agree into the interpretation of certain events. Things can always go different, and everybody has their own interpretation of how the past happened. Another big key point of history is anthropology. Now, this is the study of how people have developed and societies have grown over time. This is where we get the idea of culture, which is a big thing we'll be talking about, especially this unit. Now, these are the ways of life, mainly beliefs, religion, values, practices, and family life, and those sorts of things. Every group of people has their own unique culture. So keep that in mind as we're looking at various cultures this chapter. Another big part of anthropology and history is archaeology. This is a study of the remains of the past human cultures, whether that be looking at fossils or skeletal remains or artifacts. They also use the various pieces of technology or skills and tools people use to meet their basic needs and wants, tools which are developed to help them survive, and they use two different types of dating. We have absolute dating, which is determining the exact age of something by testing for something called carbon-14. Now, carbon-14 is an element that is found in all bones, and the less carbon-14 in a bone, the older it is. We also use something known as relative dating. This is determining how old something is compared to something else. So comparing my age to my parents' age, that's relative dating. Absolute dating would be we take a sample of carbon-14 out of, let's say, my arm right here. That would exactly say how old I am, based on the rate of decay of carbon-14 in my body. So we have to talk about the early hominids. Now, this is really just humanity very early on. It's a scientific classification of those who walk standing upright on 2 feet. This includes humans mostly. The earliest hominids were actually found in Africa, which is actually where we're going to be focusing this first unit, mainly because it is very much the center and heart of a lot of the early ancient civilizations that we'll be covering. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this. You're more than welcome to look this over if you would like. There are a bunch of different types of hominids. These are the 4 main ones. We are Homo sapiens, which emerged about 100,000 to 250,000 years ago. Again, you are more than welcome to look this over if you would like. This is just simply here to provide more context for you. There's some more information on them, a little bit more to go with that previous slide and chart. So when we're talking about prehistory, we're still in that time period. We have 2 different time periods to talk about, the Paleolithic period and the Neolithic period. Now, both we kind of lump into one gross title known as the Stone Age, things like the Flintstones. Now, the Paleolithic period is referred to as the Old Stone Age, starting roughly in 2 million BC to about 10,000 BC. This is when the earliest humans were out and about, and they were nomadic, meaning they didn't stay in one place. They traveled from place to place in search of food, and they survived by hunting. They survived by hunting and gathering. They weren't farmers or anything. They just happened to go out and find what they could find. They adapted to the environment for their food and shelter, and they developed a spoken language and made tools. This then transitioned roughly 10,000 BC into the New Stone Age, or the Neolithic period. People learned to farm, they very much settled down, they weren't nomadic as much anymore, and they developed permanent villages. Plants and animals were also domesticated and raised in a controlling way that is best for humans. They also began to make things like calendars and clothing and pottery. These were all major things to come out of that time period. There's a good image for you of describing Neolithic society, I believe. So that is actually it for notes for today. So I hope you all were able to follow along. If not, feel free to watch the video again. I will see you all in the next video in our next class session. See y'all next time. Bye, everyone.